get yours in there too?
Oh, sure, why not?
Okay, we'll call the meeting to order with the pledge of allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Just as an aside, did you see that the York Selectmen, and their head selectman is a veteran, and they are bringing it up again tonight for their meeting because he doesn't feel it's appropriate to say the pledge of the selectmen.
Really?
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Okay, approval of the agenda.
So moved. Second.
No changes? All right, all in favor? And I am vacating the chair, so I do declare that the chairman's chair is vacant, and we need a motion to elect a new chairman.
I move Tom Denley, Chair.
I'll second.
All right, any other nominations? Motion's been made and seconded to name Tom as chairman. All in favor? There you go, yeah, it's all yours. Okay.
And if the torch is passed, we want to open the floor for nominations for vice chair.
I make a motion that we nominate Sandy Woods as vice chair.
Is there a second on that? Motion made and second. Any other nominations? None, I'll ask for a vote. All in favor again, as vice chair. Congratulations. Now for the wonderful job of secretary.
I nominate Donna.
Nomination of Thelma for secretary.
Second.
Any other nominations? Seeing none, I'll put that to a vote then. All in favor of Thelma for secretary of the board? Okay. Moving on to public forum. Anybody have an item that they wish to take up with the board that's not already slated to be discussed by virtue of being on the agenda? Okay, move on. Approval of minutes of June 10th.
Motion we approve. Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve as submitted. There. All in favor? Is that 404 with one abstention?
Oh, yes, Jason, you have to abstain from action one here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, it's okay.
Just trying to fit in.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Committee and board reports.
Economic Development Committee meets on the 27th, which is Thursday, 5 p.m. here in the library. Planning Board meets the 27th at 7 p.m. here in the library. And I'll pause for Selectman DuBois to give us a Planning Board update. Over to you, Dan.
Long meeting. Had a couple of public hearings for two items, the Cannon lot at Timber Harvest and the North Chapel Common Museum. Nobody from the public that made any mention of anything, so I moved on to current applications. At the Cannon Timber Lot Harvest, there's a discussion on the timing of when that was going on. We talked about doing some photography documentation for the roads, some time requirements. Got approved with the conditions that it be completed by November 1st, 2013. That photos were taken prior to and after of the road. That no harvesting will happen before 7 a.m. or after 10 p.m. That they're to use calcium to control the dust. Shall not exceed the local road limits. Local road load limits. There was concern about heading in a couple of directions, they might exceed the load limits. And then there was one landowner that they had not received permission from yet. There's a landowner that I guess his property went right down the middle of the road. Make sure that they get the landowner permission from him before they start. The next item was the North Chapel Common Museum. There's a lot of discussion on turf parking, whether to strike, not to strike. The ordinance, when the ordinance talks about striking, the ordinance says should, so they use should as, okay, as a planning board has done in the past, it doesn't have to be, so they decided not to enforce the striking issue. There was some discussion on some landscaping and also on holding tanks for septic. It was approved with the following conditions. They maintain a turf area parking. The right-of-way, the town right-of-way from the Limerick Road gets paved, that apron gets paved. If there's issues with the parking, the turf parking, and they want to, convert to a bituminous, then they have to come back to the planning board. All parking going down the road will be reviewed by staff. And they also wanted a septic maintenance contract. We talked about putting some sort of holding tank or something there, but they're not having septic on site, but they want to make sure they have a contract so that septic just doesn't sit there. They have an event and it sits and sits. And then the letter of certification landscaping prior to the issue of occupancy. And they talked about another condition was landscaping on 19 feet on both sides of frontage along the Limerick Road. Riverbend Wellness Center, a supplementary site plan for the application. They had a site walk earlier. They discussed that. There was some discussion on protection of the propane tank near the parking lot. They got the stuff that they need from the planning board, so they'll be back with the conditional use application. New application was Thunder Drive subdivision expansion. There was a discussion there on the floodplain for Bob's Millbrook. They were supposed to have a site walk at 6 p.m. last week. I'm not sure if they had it or not. Then they moved the downtown business district discussion to the next meeting. It was pretty late. Planners report. Tad mentioned the Kate's Butter is moving along. You've all seen where they're going to be out of Old Orchard by September, I think is what it is. So they're really pushing out to get that done. The EDC wants to meet with the planning board. Howard's coming back this month to review, to brief the EDC on their findings. And comprehensive plan committee needs to get back together and start working on work with the planning board to get, they want to get ordinances ready for November. So really push for the comprehensive plan committee. And then we adjourn. We do something like 10:30 or something like that. 34, 11. That's it.
All right, and the RSU 21 Facility Committee meets July 2nd and July 19th at 7:30 at KES Room A102. And also Howard Cohn, an additional item, will be presenting his market findings to the Board of Selectmen on July 8th.
Moving on to have new business. That is consideration of approval of Bentley Saloon's liquor license renewal.
Motion to approve? Second.
Motion's been made, seconded to approve the liquor license. Any discussion?
Can I vote on any pending?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Unless you have a conflict. Okay.
I just want to know, since this has been brought up in previous meetings, if it's okay that I...
You're all set from here on. I'll give you a little.
Any other comments? All in favor of approval? Opposed?
There's a letter that I need everyone to sign. Is
Okay.
that I gotta take with me?
Yep, you have it with you?
No, they have it with the whole package.
Oh, the
That we
actual
brought over
letter.
the other day.
Sid, do you have the original?
I have the original here, and there's no letter.
No, there's a thing for the selectmen to
Right,
sign.
it's part of the form.
Right.
Right, and that's what they're signing right now.
Okay.
But I don't have to make, can you pick it up first thing in the morning?
I can make
One.
Because I didn't make, okay, because I
Is
said I
there-
need a copy for the.
Yeah, I'll make a copy.
Thank you.
Mr. Dave?
Well, we thought it was, yeah. We thought it, when I was here for
Yeah, I
the
know.
amusement, I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just looking to see if there was-
You just need that page, Bruce?
Yeah. Well, I'm thinking. Oh, did you? Yeah, they added it down. Yeah, make sure you do that.
And Chief,
Really? Pretty good. That was pretty cool. Thank you.
There you go. Sorry about that, folks.
and B, discussion with Fire Chief Bruce Mullen regarding the necessary post engine 301.
Okay, I will sit in for Chief Muller here. There's a fire at local establishment. He won't be here. Jason, conflict of interest matters with the fire department. You can't vote on this one. So I'll just give you that. Total cost came in at $17,758. $17,585.03. They guarantee all of the workmanship that they've done. The only thing that they've indicated in the letter that they couldn't guarantee was the epoxy coating of the interior of that impeller, or the actual casing. Tests at 1250 psi. There was no loss of pressure. It's still rated at the same level. If you have any questions on the truck, I can try to answer them. At the end of the discussion, I'm going to make a recommendation as to how we'll fund this, and I'll ask for a motion to approve just that, please.
If you have any questions regarding the material government alliance equipment here,
What was the price listed on just the epoxy part of the pump? Couldn't find it. I missed it.
price of the epoxy?
Yeah, they did the,
Yeah.
They epoxied
they sealed it. But I'm just kind of curious if it has to get derated down the road, if we could just re-epoxy that, how much it is, just out of curiosity. I don't see it.
They probably wouldn't list that because it's not a guaranteed item.
I would assume that that was probably absorbed as part of their labor, and they wouldn't have, as Phil said, it's not warranted, and I mean, I can't imagine a epoxy like that's a very expensive option. I think the most expensive part is disassembling it to get in there and actually re-epoxy it. But you're correct, I didn't see any line item for the epoxy.
I'm just kind of curious, if we had to do this down the road.
Yeah. I don't see
We'll worry
that.
about that. Next time we get the pump certified, it's below, right? How long is it, it's checked every year?
Yes, they get tested every year. Now, there's a listing here for a Marine Tech's Junior Kit. Not sure what that is, but that was a $31.85 item.
Yeah.
But I can't give you any guarantee that that's what it was. And yes, those get tested every year to make sure that they pass, can be rated as what they're rated as. And it did test, and it is good.
see, over a year's time, we'll still have this, and we'll see if there's any degradation to it.
Absolutely.
See what's there.
Yep, and they indicated that the parts, if the epoxy fails, it's the material such that it would just be able to be pushed through the impeller and it won't cause any other major malfunctions. And they also installed an overheat, it's a steam valve, it just blows off so that people don't overheat so you can shut it like that.
Any other questions for the man?
Oh, we got it.
Yeah. We'll do that.
All right, so I'm ready. What I would like to make a recommendation is there's a motion to pay the invoice for Reliant equipment in the amount of $17,585.03. $10,000 of that is going to come out of the fire department expense for fiscal year 12-13, this current fiscal year. And $7,585.03 I'm recommending come from the capital reserve account, and that is where I'll need a motion and a second to authorize using that $7,585.03.
Motion,
So moved.
second.
Second.
Further discussion or questions? Seeing none, all in favor?
You want to go somewhere, Roger, and I'll cover this for you too?
Item C, discussion with the Public Works regarding the truck body bits.
Excuse me. Basically, our plan is to rebody a truck as opposed to replace it. It's a 1996 chassis. It's got 70,000 miles on it. It would make sense to replace the body now. The body on it is pretty bad. Been rebuilt a couple of times. You can only patch when somebody done it, and there's nothing left to walk to. The plan was to put a stainless body on this thing, so that this body, in theory, will outlast that truck and go on probably another 7 or 8 years, and go on another cab chassis rather than buy a complete unit. Put this on this now, get the rest of the life out of this truck, pick the body up, put it on a new cabin chassis somewhere down the road. I'm guessing 7 or 8 years. I mean, it should be able to get that much out of it. But some of these bodies, for what we put out on the road, is bad stuff. They get washed faithfully, but they rust. This will be the second stainless body that we have. And I think that's really the way to go. You still clean them up. There's still parts underneath. There's a big discrepancy in prices. One of these, the highest bid obviously, is all stainless. The subframe of the body is completely stainless. The cross members and the long sills on the bottom, everything's stainless. The only thing that's not is the hinges where it attaches to the truck frame and where the telescopic hoist goes on the front. I'd like to stand in and tell you that's the very best thing to do, but for 12 grand, I just can't do that. I haven't seen any subframes on bodies rust out completely so that they're not serviceable. That's the difference between HP Fairfield's bid of $39,995 and Viking, which is $51,955. Between the high and the low. There's different manufacturers, but all of these prices include a new hydraulic pump on the truck and replacing all the lines to it, adding one valve for the dump body because it's a different type. Instead of a front dump, it's a side dump, which basically picks material up from the side of the body, dumps it onto the chain, spreads it out in front of the drive wheels. All of these would do the same. HP Fairfield's a good vendor. We've had the bulk of our equipment from them. They come here and tell you that their body won't work for low bid. I can't do that. It's not exactly what I want. 12 grand's a lot of money.
How's your other stainless steel body working out?
It's on a mid-size truck. This will be the first full-size one. That is really the way to go. I mean, the side dump part of it opens up so that you can get inside, power wash it, do a decent job of it. We've also rigged up a system down there so that we can put water to it and wash the underneath of these things. That's the Achilles heel of all these trucks. I went and looked at 4 of these bodies that are in service today for the town of York. I think they could probably do fine for us. We probably wash them a little more often than most, but
Where are these funds coming from?
In the event that the selectmen vote to award the bid to HP Fairfield in the amount of $39,995, $20,000 of that will come from what was appropriated at town meeting this year for next fiscal year. That's $20,000 for capital equipment for public works, and then the remainder, the $19,995 will come out of the public works capital equipment reserve account. And I need separate motion on both of those items to be able to have the right documentation for the library.
20K is going from where?
From the appropriated capital equipment expense line for 1314, and then the remainder will come out of capital reserve, public works.
Margie, are you comfortable with the HP Fairfield bid that you're gonna get? What to expect?
to come in here and tell you that the other one is that much better, I mean, it does the same exact thing. On the subframe of this body, the long sills, which is the part that actually runs the length of the body, sits on the truck frame, are regular steel. They supposedly coat them and paint them with 2-part epoxy to seal them up. I think if we keep the thing washed, undercoated, like we do the other ones every year, it'll do the job. I'd have a real hard time coming in there asking for that extra toll to get that. It's just, it'll do the job. And I'm telling you, these prices make me cringe because this is a dump body, a hydraulic pump, and some lines. There's a lot of labor involved. New trucks, to replace that truck right now is about $150,000. So, in lieu of that, it's a good old truck. It's actually the truck I drive in the wintertime. It'll do the job. For this kind of money, we'll get some more life out of that truck, put it on another truck eventually. I'd have a hard time coming in and asking to replace that truck with only 70,000 miles on it to get 150 grand. I mean, it's just, these prices are crazy. So I think this is the best deal. It'll do the job for the price. I'm not going to sit here and tell somebody that's bought way more dump trucks than I've probably seen. That other one's got to be the one. Just, this will work. It'll do it.
The 20,000 from capital,
Yep.
does that drain that line item?
That would drain that line item for, so there'd be nothing dumping into the reserve at the end of the year, yes, because the 20,000 was appropriated.
Is that specific for something else that you wanted to buy this year? Or?
No, that was, we've been putting, I don't know what the balance is in that account right now.
100 and, it'll be 100 and, I can't give you an exact number, it's over 150 after we close the books on Friday.
What?
Over 150,000.
So we would have put in an extra 20, but instead we're just gonna use it for this anyway.
That's correct.
And take some out of it.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Any other questions, folks?
Make a motion, we approve the 1,000.
I think we have to move to accept the bid first.
Oh, yeah. I move to accept the bid from HP Fairfield for $39,995.
Motion been made, seconded. Thanks, Dan. Any further discussion? All in favor of that? It's been awarded. Now I'll do a motion to spend $20,000 for the capital expense account for this year. First one, next year. Next year, right?
Second?
Motion's been seconded. Any further comments, discussion? All in favor? And I'll need a second motion to approve the withdrawal of the balance of $19,995 $25 from the capital equipment reserve accounts. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Thank you, folks.
Item D, selectmen to sign the code of conduct for 2013-14. We kind of interrupted doing this, haven't we? It's the last time we did this, I don't remember. You did it? Yeah. No, no, no.
So damn, you could have rolled,
Well, I didn't want-
you didn't know it.
You can decide what on the planning board, I'm on the planning board.
I don't think we need a motion on this one. No, we just need to pass it around and sign it. Anybody have any questions or wants to discuss any of the various provisions, so we can discuss those.
Questions, comments, concerns?
Okay, item F then is information regarding public works safety enhancement grant award. Does he?
Yeah, E. Committee assignments.
Oh, okay.
It's okay, Skip.
Committee assignments for 2013-14.
You have your,
This we did last year.
yes. This is one on there, doing that. I've been asked at the end, are you willing to sit on the economic development committee?
Sure.
That was just a request.
I'm okay with that.
Any changes, any,
I'll stay with, I'm happy to stay with the budget board and finance committee,
are we okay
town
with
hall building committee.
the appeals board?
Yeah, I'm fine with the ones that we're just here.
All right, Dan, the assessment review board, they meet quite often, so I'm going to do that one.
Yeah, it's been a busy year.
So development budget board, Tom, you're okay, comp plan, parks and rec. Dan, do you still want to be planning board as well?
Yes.
Belmont Finance Committee,
Yes,
Phil will run the fire rescue,
Okay.
Public Safety Committee, we don't, that doesn't really meet, so we're gonna skip that again. So your Town Hall Building Committee, Belmont,
sure.
and maybe Jason? Would you mind doing that, Jason? With your experience in the trade? Strategic Plan Committee, Dan and Tom.
I'm not sure.
Dan,
I can take David's spot on that.
okay.
Are we still meeting?
They haven't, but they're, now it's gonna be a little in limbo because Dana's gone, so we'll probably have to figure out if the members are still on.
I thought
They
once the
wanted to-
EDC got formed, the strategic plan went.
They didn't want it dissolved.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that, and whether there was still a need for it. I mean, we kept on meeting, but I'm not 100% sure that really there's a need for that. It's something that, yeah, we can sit down with Dana and see what his thoughts were, and reply back or something.
So Tom, you okay with charter review?
Yeah.
That's
So
again this year?
Not just that. So,
All right, so I'm just gonna read it for the record. We've got Tom Danlick Appeals Board, Dan DuBois Assessment Review Board, Donna Jones Hayes Budget Board, Cemetery Committee. They're not very active. Do we wanna just, Dana was the appointee on that. All right, cross it off. Comprehensive Plan Review Committee is Tom, Parks and Rec Committee is Tom, Planning Board is Dan, RSU 21 Finance Committee is Velma, Economic Development Committee is Dan, Fire Rescue is Phil, Town Hall Building is Velma and Jason, Strategic Planning Committee will be Dan and Jason, and Charter Review will be Tom. And I thank you for your volunteerism.
talk about the public safety enhancement grant award amount $1,416.40. Authorize to allocate this fund to public works tools and equipment expenditure account. When you see it.
Well, you're gonna buy that next year, right?
We'll wait till July 1st.
Till July 1st, okay. So there was another $1,468.40. Roger, you wanna go give us a quick rundown on what that included?
Basically, this is the second one we've got in 6 months.
Yep.
It's done by Maine Municipal, who carries our workers' comp claims, and they have these grants that are available. You apply in either April or September. They review them and choose them. This year they waited maybe sweat for this one. You have to have it in by the 30th of April. They go over them in May, award them in June. And basically it was to renew signs, cones, stuff like that you would use in a work zone area. The last time it was to the lift gate on our brand new used truck in Kennebunk, which we made a tool truck out of. We put in for it. Again, it's $1,400 to buy cones, signs, and flagging materials, stuff like that.
And as I requested a few meetings ago for the Public Works Department, I feel it's fair to the Public Works Department, since they're expending these funds and they're receiving these funds for purchasing these items, that per town meeting vote, where the selectmen are allowed to determine where grant award money is allocated, I would request that money be allocated to the Public Works Tools and Equipment Expenditure account when we do receive it.
Well, since it's a grant,
Any motion?
doesn't it?
So moved.
I'll second that.
Is there a question, Tom?
Yeah, since it's a grant, doesn't it have to go to those specific items that the grant is for?
It does, but in the past, the money has just gone into the general fund and it's come out of the expenditure. This way we'll record it where it belongs so that we don't end up running out of money again. But yes, we do have to use those funds for the reason that they were awarded to us.
What happened before, every time we put in for a grant and received the grant, we'd go buy the materials, whatever the grant is for, send an invoice to MMA and they reimburse us. When the money comes out of my operating account, when it comes back in, it goes into the general fund.
Oh, okay.
So without that vote, that's what we have.
Another fundraiser for the town.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that's how the government accounting is supposed to go and stuff.
Okay, we have a motion, second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Item G is to update the selectmen on the MLA Facilities Committee meeting held on 6/21.
Okay, so what we have here are two schematics that were blown up. You have them in front of you as well. The color versions are up on the bottom. As Dan had indicated, the parking has been eliminated here. When you leave tonight, there are stakes out by the woods, and I can show you which parking spot the jog begins at. There'll be 128 feet from the right-of-way to this corner of the building here. They've added a little bit of additional paving for truck deliveries and the like. Other than that, there were no major changes to this plan from the plan that was presented at the last meeting. That shows just a little more detail of the building itself. In the email that I had sent you Thursday, there was a page. Phil, did you get a hard copy? Did I make you a hard copy of that PDF that I sent for the engineering report?
I don't think so.
Okay, I'll make you a copy of that. There's a really good outline drawing, and I meant to bring a copy of it today, and I forgot. That gives you the perimeter of the C and D wing and where the settlement is occurring. We did do a tour of the facility, and if you go down that D wing, down the hallway, starting at this corner towards Limerick Road, they pulled down the 1x that's been covering the cracks, and there's a good 3 to 4 inch gap between the hallway and the building. As you go down the hallway, there's another about an inch crack, and if you go outside, every 3 or 4 feet along the foundation, it's stepping down. That's showing that there's been failure. Also, the header over this hallway is coming away. There's step cracks that go right through the mortar and the concrete and the brick on the back side of the building. So the worst settling on the D-wing is this side of the D-wing, which is settled, I believe, 14 inches. And as you go right around the building, if you look at the window headers, the windows are separating away from the brick, the cinder blocks. There's gaps that have been filled with caulking over and over and over again. There's step cracks in the back side as you exit by the gymnasium. There's step cracks all along the concrete. You can see where the roof to an addition is pulling away from the roof of the gymnasium. Just for fun, I put a basketball down on the floor in the gymnasium at that meeting, and didn't have to give it much of a push, and it decided to keep going, and it kind of swirls around and ends up in the back corner where the janitor's office is. The engineers indicated if you get in the lift, as you're standing on the ground, you can see the separation of those land beams. If you get in the lift, he said you can actually get your hand inside of those. He said, so although those sound like really large numbers, Gillespie and Associates stands by the fact that there has been that much settling in and around the building in the years since it's been built, and they anticipate that it will continue to do so. Adding any additional load would possibly just increase or compound the issue and make it settle faster. So the RSU Facilities Committee is making a recommendation to the full board, the full RSU board, that the project go ahead as presented in scheme 3B, I think it is. They are recommending to the RSU board that this. 3A was it, Donna? This is 3, no, the landscaping is 3A. So they're going to recommend that plan in about 3 weeks. Harriman Associates will have a cost estimate, and they're not sure if they'll make that for the July 2nd facilities meeting. If not, that'll be taken up at the July 19th facilities.
When are they doing borings?
The test borings, Dan didn't tell us when they were going to do them. He said that I thought he said that within the next month they would do test borings to see what was out there.
I printed out that report, though.
Oh, okay. Let me just grab a quick copy of that one page.
I think it's all there.
Which page are you looking at?
It was listed as page 11, but it says figure 2 plan of settlement measurement.
Page 13.
I'm going to make copies of this just so that you can look. It gives you the best idea of exactly what's going on. I'm not an engineer, so I can't dispute what they're telling us.
Is that this here?
This one. Should be this one. We'll show where it's.
There have been anchor bolts drilled into the foundation in critical locations, which are control points as they continue to do their surveys. That one gives you the heights, this one actually gives you the modest level. And so they have been, well before I was here, I think it wasn't very long after the school was built when they began surveying and taking elevations of the building because there were concerns early on.
Bill can have that, if you'd like.
Oh, Phil can have that?
Yeah. Then you won't have to print it out.
Thank you.
As you can see, that corner of the D-wing, this one that we're looking at here, there's been 14 inches of settlement, 6 inches on the far corner, and then the perimeter on that side seems to be staying steady, and that's where they're telling us that the marine clay kind of sharply rises closer to the surface. They don't know exactly what they're dealing with in the front. That's why they'll do test borings to see how much material The discussion was had that they won't build on foundations if there isn't the right material. If it's less than 15 feet to bedrock, I think that they had said they would excavate, they would recommend the material all be excavated and new material be imported to try to avoid this issue again.
But I'm thinking that ledge comes up pretty quickly over there.
Yeah, that's what they're saying, and they just dealt with it. I think he said South Portland High School, the ledge came up very quickly like that. What they had to do was blast pockets into the ledge to be able to drive the pile to land on something because they kept skimming off the face of it. And so if that's the case, they'll have to dig down to actually make pockets to hold the pile in order to hold the building. Members in attendance asked that Harriman Associates and Gillespie Engineers make sure that we don't run into this problem again where, 10 years down the road, they tell us that this building's settling. They indicated that at this point in the game, that would be their liability, and so that's why they're here to design a building that's not going to move. And we would have a liability relationship with the engineer and the architect so that in the event that happens again, we can go back and say, this is a concern about engineer.
Not us.
The RSU. That's right, the RSU. Are there any specific questions on?
What's you said they're going to recommend, I'm sorry, recommending this as
The move
the
forward.
project,
Yes.
as opposed to, I read someplace that are they considering building
I don't believe
a new
there's,
school and on Kennebunkport or under the line, I mean,
nobody's
read that in your
indicated,
paper.
nobody's indicated to me that that's in fact going to be a recommendation. Obviously, that would have to go to vote to each community to see whether or not they wanted to close the school. And I don't know if,
Then we look at the cost.
I think Harriman and Associates is looking at how much it would cost to acquire land and be able to build completely independent structure.
At the last RSU meeting, they went over this a little bit, and there was also a discussion to re-look at, rediscuss the issue of, could the Kennebunk School be an addition there, and maybe close this one, or, combining the elementary schools. And the board felt that it was prudent to start that discussion again in lieu of, this could be a $10 million project.
Right. 10 million there, 10 million.
Right, and then 45, whatever, at the high school, you're talking, huge dollars, so.
The next full board meeting is on July 2nd, and I'll be there, and I'll be able to give you an update on the 8th as to what transpires at that meeting. Any other questions? Still have not. No. I haven't heard back from Steve Tart either. I'll have to contact him again and actually probably brought up that DOT in Augusta. It won't be an issue because of the fact that they'll meet the setback requirements, but it would be nice to determine whether or not the DOT is willing to relinquish that piece of property to the town. But I have yet to hear back from them.
Well, if we're in the interest of the town, we're going to make a shit to the
Yeah, sure.
RSU.
Yes.
We
It's not
would
trespassing.
maintain our right of way to
Yeah.
go to the ball.
Right.
While we're on the subject, Roger, do you know the last time that they did any addition or any kind of work to the leach field for this building?
My knowledge.
No.
We checked it once. Mark Welch came down. There was a problem with the system.
Yep.
Well, they thought one side of the leach bed was, grass was growing really nice, and the other side wasn't happening.
Wasn't there an issue that there were two leach beds and the pump was supposed to be switched from one to the other and it hadn't been switched or was broken or
It
something?
was switched, all right.
And-
That's two leach beds out there that run from two pump stations. We checked the bed itself, bone dry, nothing going on. Came back to the pump chamber, no pump. It had been sent out, there was a problem with it, it was pulled out, gone.
Yeah, so it's only for using one leach?
They were only using one half of that system. That's the only thing that's ever been done to that, to my knowledge. That's never been,
That was a long time ago, too, right?
that's 10 years,
Yeah.
10 years ago anyway.
Yeah.
I think it was right before home started, right.
Probably.
Wow. Answers that question.
Okay, anything else on RSU facilities? Okay, next item is certification of completion of freedom of access training pursuant to 1 MRSA section 412.
I put paper in front of you, for all of you, if you haven't done it, I just ask that you can either review this document that was in your packet, which covers the training, or there's a link on the website. If you go to main.gov, just Google main.gov freedom of access, it'll give you pretty much the same information, and you just have to understand that we deal with public records, and the public has a right to request those public records, so anything that's emailed that may be sensitive, it's better to pick up the phone, is pretty much what it says. If you haven't reviewed it, you get a chance to review it, sign that, and turn it back into town hall when you get a chance, and then we'll be up and compliant for this coming year.
Questions, anybody? Good. Next item is approved the payroll warrant policy for 13-14.
Yes, and this is the policy that allows one selectman to sign the payroll warrant when the meetings don't fall in line with payroll, rather than having this scheduling a regular meeting to sign the warrant. This authorizes one selectman to come in and sign.
So moved. Second.
So made second. Any further discussion, questions? All in favor? It's approved. Okay, next item is to approve the list of municipal officials appointments for 2013 and 14 as presented. They include animal control Deborah LaRoche, assistant animal control Teddy Myers, building inspector, code enforcement officer, electrical inspector James Nagel, electrical inspector for commercial situations James Mondon, EMA director, civil emergency preparedness director Brandon Tardif, fire chief, fire rescue Bruce Mullen, freedom of access officer Tom Shea, health officer Randall Tardif, plumbing inspector James Nagel, and registrar of voters, tax collection, town clerks, and William Dawson.
I make a motion that we appoint all of these people.
Second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to make the appointments of the full-time as just read to the offices that indicated for the old for the ensuing year. All in favor? Jay, I'm sorry.
Just a quick discussion. Freedom of access officer, that new?
Yes, it is. That's a statutory requirement. What that does is anyone that requests, that presents the town with a freedom of access request will go directly through me to be disseminated to whoever might have the information.
Anybody else? All in favor of that?
Mary, those two are.
Okay, the next item is for the selectmen to approve the list of board and committee appointments for 2013-14. They include planning board, Rich Ganong, and Roger Moran, zoning board of appeals, James Moramici, John Webb, and Roman Cloutier as an alternate. Parks and Recreation Committee, Michelle Baker Lands, Denise Bignall, and Carl Wall.
Move to approve.
Motion been made to approve. Second.
Second.
Any questions?
Yeah, the planning board members, they want to re-up.
They do.
Talk to them.
Yes, I have. As well as the Board of Appeals. That was a little more difficult, but yes, Jim and John are all along. Jen has more Parks and Rec appointments to make, but she's dealing with a family issue right now, so she wasn't able to get in touch with everyone. I need to find an additional Board of Appeals member. If anyone knows of anyone interested, please let me know. And the budget board will be appointed at either the next meeting or the last meeting in July, once I've been able to contact the current members and find additional members. So if you know if there's anyone interested in the budget board, please send them my way.
Did Did somebody leave the Board of Appeals?
Well, no, there was a vacancy.
Dave Berg was on.
Dave Berg is an alternate. Ray Reimer is still on the Board of Appeals. So there was one alternate short. And where Norm Cludier wants to be an alternate, I can either take Dave Berg, who I don't believe wants to be a full member because he's gone a considerable amount of the year. So I need to find someone I can appoint to a full member on the Board of Appeals. I spoke to a few people, but I haven't heard back from them yet.
Any more questions? All in favor?
They want to sign this budget. Big signature.
Okay, next item is Selectmen sign annual salary spreadsheet reflecting 2013 town meeting budget approved. I didn't see that.
No, it didn't fit on the back because it's a large format. All of the salaries that are on that sheet are what the budget was figured on for this current year that was approved. The auditors just need to see that I will marry those two documents. As you can see, the signature page is separate. I'm not trying to trick you. I'm not trying to attach your signatures to something else. But that is how it came out, so I'll get those together and make it into one document for the auditors to have noted.
So we don't take any action on any press minutes, is that what you're saying?
You just need to sign. It's already been approved.
Right.
We don't need a motion, we just need to sign.
Nope, just the signatures, please.
Well, actually, if this is the selectmen's budget from coming forward, then Dana was the one who
He was the one, but Jason is now also elected, so he has this.
Has to sign.
He's the one that signs it.
See how quick it stopped?
I'm going to refer you to the code of conduct.
You don't have to do anything, Jason.
Okay, item M here is to award the fuel bid contract from Champagne Energy because that's the only bid we got.
And
So,
typically what I do is I would send it out back out to bid, but the last 2 years that I've been here, Champagne has been the lowest bidder, and there's only been 2 other. We mailed it to about 10 or 12 different contractors in the area and from away. Got some contact back from VK, Dennis Burke, and other companies that were going to bid and never ended up doing it. Champagne provides excellent service. I don't think, we can't really say anything badly about what they do. They meet our needs.
We've had real good luck with them.
Yeah.
They deliver, keep the tank full in the winter time. One of the things that we had before in a previous fuel bid, some of these companies want to come in and dump large quantities like they would here at the school. There's no other place. The town hall is a small tank, fire department's on propane. Down at the shop, we have a 275-gallon tank of heating oil for the fuel bid, so these bigger companies just not interested in making small drops.
So So I would make a recommendation that we offer, that we do award the bid to Champagne's. Belmont, I did some homework on the fixed price per gallon for heating oil, and just as Roger said, we don't have the facilities for them to come in with a tanker and make a drop, and so that's why our price was quite a bit higher than the price of the RSU got, as well as the fact that they use a considerably more fuel than we do. So that's where that differential is. But I would recommend, if the board is willing to entertain it, awarding the contract for fixed price for fuel oil, the variable price, which is all that was offered at K1, fixed price for propane, and the variables on unleaded and diesel fuel.
Where do you use K1?
K1 is mostly used for general assistance. Do you use K1 at all, Roger?
We have one small tank that we use for space heaters and stuff.
Yep. But most of the K1 use is general assistance calls, outdoor tanks.
So it says you got the bids on June 21st?
Yes.
How does this reflect the numbers that were punched in for budget across fire?
This is the exact same fixed rate as last year, and all of the other prices are pretty close, so that I had estimated right around $3.30 a gallon because of the history we had last year and not knowing, so this will fit right into what we budgeted.
And over we want to Champagne Energy.
Motion been made and seconded to award the bid for fuel for the municipalities of Champagne Energy. Any further discussion or questions about that? All in favor then? Amendments to review and sign the AP and payroll warrant.
Second.
All in favor? Any other business, or old business in this?
When are we going to be having any information back on the town hall?
On the town hall, I'm meeting again with the architects and the engineers next week, so that we can get something to the board of selectmen to review before we go to boards and committees and have those conversations. So we get close. We got a bubble diagram that they're making a few revisions to, and then we're going forward with the board of selectmen.
And I just wanted to reiterate that we continue to just try to get a hold of Marathon through the Eastern Trail.
Doing my best, and I think I have another angle that we can approach it from, that I'll talk to you about this weekend.
Anything else in there?
Yeah.
No.
Just under other business, the Arundel Historical Society is planning a Arundel Heritage Days. Simone, was that the name that they agreed on? The next meeting is going to be, I believe, July 20th. You remember that, Simone? But I'm going to be sending out an email notice as long as the board doesn't have any objections to me advertising a historical society event with the town's website. I'm just going to let people know that the historical society is looking for volunteers and participants in that event. They're looking at September 14th on the Kindred property where the farmhouses have been moved, and then their other field, as well as possibly Kate's Butter and the Door property. We're going to contact DOT, get the signage put up properly, recreation will provide transportation between locations. They're planning what do they call it? It's like an extreme obstacle race course thing for it, and I guess
One of those butter things?
one of those mother type things, yeah.
Yes.
So,
Some of the road races.
yeah, they decided that they might make get a little bit more larger, more diverse group of people.
Crazy people.
But yeah, they're planning a mother.
My daughter.
And as information comes available, I'll let you know. If you have any questions, email Dawn and Kindred, and she'll be more than happy to tell you what's going on.
Hey,
Okay, that's all I have.
anything else?
Motion adjourned.
Second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Time to start, please.
On the other side.
That's my, that's my.
And it's directly above